Water-wise, I've been in the water for the last 40 years. Paddling, probably 35 years. During that time, I was a paddler, and then as a coach, trainer. And the people that would come from me, I think, looking at it, probably around about 50% of the people that come through, I have to actually train, teach them not to swim, but to understand the ocean. And probably about 60% of them are afraid of the water. And I think it's normal to be afraid of something that you don't know of. And I think the only way to counter that is the more you understand it, the more you're more comfortable with it. You see a lot of documentaries now where you see a lot of shark documentaries, because that is the key thing, is that a lot of people are scared of sharks. But if you look at those documentaries and you see it, you understand that it's not as bad as what it seems. Shark attacks, they happen when things go wrong, and it's very similar to being in the car. If you don't know what's going on and something happens, you get into an accident. The same thing with the oceans, and most of the times, if you're in the ocean, you hardly ever get an opportunity to see a shark, because most of the time they'll run away. And it's when you're in a particular situation that if you don't know about it, then you can't get yourself out of it. Conditions of the oceans as well, like sometimes you see rain, and a lot of people get, I get people when it rains, they call me up and say, hey, is there training today? But rain really doesn't really affect the conditions. It's really the wind that has a lot of effect on the conditions. Rain mainly so if there's lightning and things like that. But again, there's a lot of different factors that go into it. So the more you know, the safer you'll be. So for me, starting, I was very fortunate. Starting up, when you're young, you're fearless. You don't really care about jumping into the water and things like that. But I was very fortunate. I had a lot of people that that supported me. I think when I was really young, I almost drowned at Mulinu, but I managed to get myself out of it. But it didn't really teach me too much because I was young. So from there, I went into sailing, and it pretty much water became second nature to me. So I just grew around people that were in sailing and fishing, around yachts, around canoes, around motorboats. So I kind of knew a lot of things. But the thing is, I'm not. It doesn't make me. It doesn't exclude me from getting into a bad situation. So I think about 20 years later, we went out. I took out some paddlers, inexperienced, but we kept them inside the harbour. Unfortunately, we got into a situation where the canoe sank, and we were caught in a rip. So I called out. So it's just around here, Palolo Deep. And if anybody's been down Palolo Deep, you're about probably 500 meters from the harbour. So the boat sunk, and we were right there on the reef. And naturally, everybody would swim towards the reef. I was on the reef, and some of the guys were just probably about 2-3 meters away from me, and they were trying to swim towards me, but the current was just going out. The water was going out. The tide was going out, and the current was very strong over the reef, and it was a big rip that was just pulling them out. So it took them about 10 minutes to try and swim in, but they couldn't get in. One of them was my son, Barry, and a few of them were just the crew that I worked with. So I had to make a decision to jump in, because I was leading the team. They felt that I was their safety. So they, instead of swimming, I called out to them to swim towards the harbour because the current was going that way. But they didn't. They decided to turn around and swim towards me because they thought that's where the safe area was. So I made a decision at that point to swim towards the harbour and get them to follow me. So I jumped in, and I got up and I called out to them to follow me towards the harbour. And as I was calling out and I turned around to swim, I realized that I swallowed water. And that was a really different experience for me. I've never actually experienced that before, and I think that was the first time that I've actually felt what drowning was like. And I went under, and I didn't like it. So I managed to pull myself out of it mentally and come back up. And I think it happened probably twice. And I think after the second time, I realized that I know what to do. I just need to calm myself down and get myself back to it. So I got back up and I took smaller breaths, just sort of breathed a little bit, and started swimming towards the harbour. It was a windy day and it was a choppy day. So those days are not good when you're trying to breathe and water's always splashing in your face. But it took us 2 minutes to swim from where we were to the harbour, and everybody was safe. Whereas compared to, I think it ended up being about 15, 20 minutes that they were trying to swim towards me and getting tired. So these are one of the things that people need to understand. And even though I had been paddling and sailing for a long time, I still got myself into a situation. But it was also my experience that got me to calm down, sort myself out, and get myself and others back into safety. So those are, and those things that I always try and make sure to talk to other paddlers, especially the senior paddlers. Like, no matter how experienced you are, how strong you've always got to make sure to prevent yourself from getting into a situation like that. But if you do, just remember to go back to the basics and just keep yourself calm. Start looking around at your options and then making a decision. But one of the main things that I've seen happen so many times, even to the most experienced of us, because we feel we're responsible for everybody, we make quick decisions that puts not only ourselves in danger, but it puts everybody else in danger. So, I think that story might sound dramatic, but I think if I didn't have that experience and someone without the experience wasn't there, I think then it would have been a bad situation. But these are the reasons why we have these programs. I'm not claiming to be the knower of all this, but I do want to share what I've experienced, and I also want to teach what we've experienced and what we can do to help those who are not only afraid of the water, but just for our people to understand that we are Pacific Islanders and we are one with the ocean, and we need to be one with the ocean. Yeah.